But now, I mean, actually, before we get into the alcohol stuff, that does make me think of like Fort Point up north, and how there was a whole thing about like how cops were, I forget, were they busting people for hassling folks?
That was for localism.
Right.
That was for veritable fisticuffs from some of the people in the water.
Yeah.
It was assault and battery, basically.
Yeah.
You know, but those guys are kind of Neanderthals. The guy was a kneeboarder, for God's sake. That guy should be getting beat up.
Yeah.
Well, a kneeboarder needs to be has his ass kicked, definitely.
You know,
Yeah, he just needs to stand
I
up,
just
right?
can't. I just.
All right, keep the kooks out of the water, but let's
I didn't mean that. I love
same
kneeboarders.
manner, you know, it's just
I actually really love kneeboarders.
You gotta have the kooks, man.
Hey everybody, it's Adam
and Brandi.
here from Happening Now with Hammer, reminding you to go check out High Times Wine Cellar and Liquor Store in Costa Mesa.
Pick up all your 4th of July goodies at High Times.
Especially the pouches from Good Bev Co. We tried them the other day, and these Good Bev Co pouches are the way to go if you want a compact little marg in an easy to travel with pouch.
He always says things so fancy. It's a boozy juice box, and it's fucking awesome. It is delicious. They taste really good. They're dangerously good. It's 10%. You can fit way more of these in a cooler than a bunch of cans. Less heavy, less waste, and also delightful. And you kind of look cool drinking it. It's really just kind of fun.
When I, like the probably second or third year I was living down here, I had a pretty irregular work schedule, which I tend to prefer.
I don't think that's changed, Adam.
But there was this one kneeboarder who I would regularly like bump into around 2:30 down at River Jetties. Mm-hmm. And the guy, like he and I just had kind of honed in on the sandbar on the north side pretty well. And I remember like he and I would trade waves, and he's a bigger, older guy. Like I feel like some kneeboarders like will tend to be. It's an easy way to still get out there. And I can just remember this guy like kicking into his wave and then popping up and just shamu belly out, just so happy, like right in front of the girl. And just to see somebody like maintain their passion and their excitement to get out there, that's when I was like, all right, dude, kneeboarding looks really kooky, but fuck, if you're having fun with it, get out there.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I agree with that.
Are you just talking about your future?
Yes.
See the
I'm talking about 12 Modelo's later.
When COVID happened, my family was over in Bali, and our flights home were canceled, and we ended up staying over there for about 7 months. Yeah, it sucked. It was such a bummer.
No, it's horrible.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for joining us, folks.
I was in Bali for 7 months. Okay.
I worked from over there, so and we hadn't started the company just yet. It was a concept. So, in any case, I have a friend that had a boat, and we went over to this wave called G-Land, Grajigan, over on the tip of Java, and it was closed down. There's nobody there. Can't get into the country. I had a work visa, so I could get into the country, and my family could. But we pull up at this legendary wave that's on the tip of this jungle, literally in the middle of nowhere. And there's 2 dudes in the lineup, and none of the camps are open or anything. And we go, where the hell are these guys from? Because there's no city for within 100 miles. And these guys were 2 super hardcore kneeboarders from Hawaii that go there every year, and they had posted up in one of the camps, and even though no one's there, they took over like 100-pound bag of rice, and they were catching fish, and they were just like on it. They were just charging it, literally living in the jungle. It was so awesome. So those guys, kneeboarders kick ass. See?
Kneeboarders kick ass. You heard it here first.
That was cool.
And it's kind of like islander to islander respect in that scenario, you know?
Yeah. Well, we pulled up, and I actually said, apologies for jumping in on the party, and they go, we're just so stoked to surf with somebody. This is great.
This guy's been driving me crazy.
So,
will you burn him?
Oh my God, people. I've seen people.
Probably so tired from trading waves.
Sorry,
it's just me and him.
Sorry, that was
back
a
and
weird
forth.
tangent that had nothing to do with anything, but thought I'd share.
And by the way, Mark, they hadn't seen a woman in how long?
I know, exactly, right? And my wife was on the boat, so it was funny.
Exactly.
Oh, so, getting back to the alcohol stuff, were you guys drinking anything on the boat? Was there anything you wished you had?
Yeah, I wish I had those margarita pouches and the little things, and
Yeah,
that would have
thank
been cool.
Those things are awesome.
They would have been
dude.
perfect for
Honestly, I wish I had those all day long.
Yeah, you'd appreciate this. How long did it take you, bro, to get that margarita thing? We've talked about this. Really, but
to
time-wise.
to formulate it.
To formulate it. You would think it'd be easy as hell, right?
Yeah, it's a long story.
Yeah.
We worked with 2 different formulators on it. One of them just took forever. So we launched in February of 2022 is when we established the business. And being naive entrepreneurs, we're like, yeah, we're going to be in the market by April.
Yeah,
No
of course.
problem. Yeah, 3 months, this is easy. So we went through a couple phases with this first formulator, and they're really well respected, but just couldn't deliver on a product. So we went to another local formulator here. They're actually just right down the street in Huntington Beach. They were awesome, but they just couldn't get it to where we wanted. So we're talking, this is already 2 months in, maybe 2.5 months into our 3-month planned launch projections. And finally, just one day, I'm like, you know what, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to try to do this. I came from an analytical background. I've used analytical equipment, really small scale, like pipettes, doing milliliter size samples. So I just went out, bought a pipette on Amazon.
I don't know what a milliliter is, but hey, we'll move on from there.
So bought a pipette, which is this analytical instrument that measures precise small volumes. And I just said, you know, I'm going to go and I'm going to start playing around with it. So took about, in total, working with them plus the development I did, probably 4.5 months to get where we did. But the hardest,
not bad.
It's not bad.
Over time, that's not bad at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's not great. Again, you're naive when you start a business.
You know how long it took Anheuser-Busch to come up with their formula?
Probably, 10 years?
17.
Yeah, totally. So it was a unique experience, one that...
Why do you know that?
I love my beer. Any good beer drinker knows that story. I mean, come
I've
on.
never seen you drink an Anheuser-Busch.
Is that a beer?
Well, to the process that got you there, Dan.
Thank you. Yeah, cheers. Yeah, it was a quite process.
Can we have our fight? I mean, do you mind?
I know, excuse us. I'm sorry.
You mind?
It's like that's why you separated our
Yeah,
chairs.
apparently. Yeah.
That's why I wanted space
Adam,
over
you're
there.
in for an ass kicking, I'm going to tell you.
Hey, it took Anheuser-Busch 17 years to develop that formula, but they fucking shot that thing down with one commercial, didn't they?
Real quick.
One can.
I'm going to tell you something. You can, if you shoot yourself in the foot, you're not going to be running track.
Yeah.
Okay? It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, well.
But they blew both
They
feet
own,
off.
they own like 40 other brands as
Yeah.
well that are still
Yeah,
very
clear.
like just killing it all
Yeah.
over town that nobody even like looks at.
Yeah.
They might have needed a little broke leg horse to get rid of.
Yeah,
you know?
I think it was actually a plan.
Maybe, perhaps.
Okay, all right, let's entertain this idea. What do you think the plan was?
Well, I think when you're struggling, your brand is struggling, and there's all these new great beverage companies like yours.
You're
Yeah.
suggesting
And
that Bud and Bud Light were struggling.
to their performance level, of course, they have been. And I would say that they're like, okay, let's try this. And all of a sudden, what is everybody talking about? Good press, bad press, guys. It's that whole thing, right? The whole bullshit about them losing all this money. I don't buy all that because I think Bud Light was falling apart anyway. And I think it was a plan. I mean, these guys aren't stupid. You know, they don't make
I agree.
follies like this unless it's planned.
You know, it's funny. We had this conversation before, and I told you that, and you were like, "No, they fucked up."
Okay, Brandi's right.
Brandy's right.
Pretty sure.
Ring the bell, round over.
Yeah, round over. Ding, ding.
The craziest thing to me about that whole thing, though, is that how social media has changed the world. Right? Like if this happened 10 years ago, one can would make zero difference. No one would know.
Yeah.
But that's the influence that social media has now, and like that's things that as brand owners you have to think about. Like if I misstep one time, I could literally crush my entire brand. Yeah. So you almost have to take this like centrist view on a lot of things and be unopinionated when you put yourself in that entrepreneur
But
shoe
that's
because you
sad.
can crush your brand.
But I hate that. I hate that.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think you should be true to yourself, right?
Yeah. I think you should be as flamboyant as you can possibly be with your company.
I don't know about that, Hammer. You've done a really good job being centrist and curtailing yourself on this
Demure.
program. Yeah.
Extremely.
I guess what I'm saying is I don't think that you shouldn't be true to yourself, but you have to tread lightly at times, right?
For sure.
Absolutely.
Time and a
Absolutely.
place, honestly.
Yeah, but I think there's a happy medium, right? And I think
Right.
the pendulum has swung too far in one direction, where everyone's afraid of their own shadow or about what they say. You know, I'm not saying it should switch back the other way and be wild, wild west again, but I do think that there should be a happy medium where people are allowed to speak their voice as long as it's respectful. And if other people are offended, then that's their problem, not your problem.
And like a conscious audience to say, okay, that isn't how I feel about something, but I can still be here
100%.
and subscribe to the entire conversation.
I don't need to hate you because you have a different opinion. I mean, I have to respect your opinion, and you know, well, except you, Brandi, that's different. But you and I, we'll talk about that later. But I think you should respect people's opinion, but don't push it down my throat. Okay, that's it.
I don't know. I think a lot of brands will always kind of ride that line. You know, I have a friend that's a NASCAR driver. He started with like Mars with M&Ms, and then his wife, you know, wore a low cut dress one time, you know, for a promo thing, and they lost their fucking minds. You know, and she was like, dude,
Oh my God,
you know,
tits.
like I had to, you know, make a big issue of this, you know, and cover up for a little while, and then I finally, you know, we broke them down a little bit over time, but you know, like that was just like something that's their brand. You want to get paid from us. This is what we require of you.
It wasn't looking green M&M enough for them.
Oh my God. Well, that was before.
There wasn't enough green in there.
This was when he first started.
Wow.
What's that greatest showman quote, though? It's like you can please some people all the time.
No,
but
you can please
can't-
some people some of the time. No, you can please
some people all the time, but not all the people all the time.
All the time.
No, you can please some of the people
Some of the time.
some of the time, and all the people. What I can't.
You can't please some of the people. You can
Wait,
please
wait,
some of the people some of the time,
Wait, was it?
but you can't please all the people all the time.
You can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time.
George Bush, he did that. What was he saying? He was saying, you can't
Fool me once.
fool me once.
Fool me once. Shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
So like Hurley brought you back here, Mark, to kind of work in this surf industry that was growing, right? There was so much coming out of the zone then, right?
Yeah.
You still had Billabong, you had Quick,
Yeah.
Volcom was going. Now we've got the same thing going with cans. They're opening all over town, right? We've got Los Sundays, we've got Happy Dad, we've got Vacation, and you can pop into a good Bev pouch.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think Newport's a great breeding ground for brands, especially ones that take influence from the surf industry. I mean, we were talking earlier, I worked 10 years at Rip Curl, followed by a brief stint in cannabis, which was amazing.
Which is the natural, like, flow, I would say. Like, yeah.
It's called being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, but in a fun
way,
in a fun
yeah.
manner.
It's taking the culture of Newport Beach and applying it in different spaces. Like if you look at Lost Sundays, if you look at Vacation, if you look at us, I think we pull a lot of our values and our branding from the surf industry because we all grew up in it, right? The guys from Lost Sundays, they're from Australia, grew up surfing. I grew up in Orange County, live in Newport Beach now, grew up surfing. The guys from Vacation grew up in Newport Beach surfing, right? So we're all pulling the culture that surfing brought to us into these new brands. And I think that's what's creating such a great niche market for us too, though, is we're appealing to that specific crowd that maybe doesn't feel appealed to by other big brands. So it's a great way to really approach a fun industry with a unique perspective that we, got inspired from another industry.
At the end of the day, guys and gal, everybody wants to be, Hallie surfing on the beach and, putting that suntan lotion on and enjoying those waves. But they can't. So it's a good way for them to, see what we're doing in our perspective.
Yeah, and who doesn't want to experience Southern
And
California
just feel
culture?
a part of it, right?
Yeah.
I do think it's a nice natural iteration for businesses that exemplify the culture here of Southern California to evolve. Because like you were saying about a lot of folks from around here growing up and kind of getting into the surf industry, cannabis also kind of came about at that time that right as most of us were getting out of college and looking for a career, it had just been legalized. These businesses were just starting to grow.
Totally.
That's gone through its own thing. And now that folks have cut their teeth in the real world, what our classic pastime is now here is kind of like the next step of these businesses.
Yeah,
too.
totally. I mean, I think cannabis was so great at the time that I joined too, because it was my first experience with a startup company, right? So getting that experience in a fun industry, being able to enjoy all that. Well, I was employee number 4 there, which gave me great perspective in terms of like understanding all the facets of the business. And I always look back, I was there for
So are you trying to
four and a half years?
Up Mark? Because he was 18. Okay.
No. So I was there. So I was there for
but
about,
IPD, I was probably 2.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're okay.
I just went up
All right,
him. There you go.
So I was there for about 4.5 years, but as that industry grew, everyone got more siloed, right? So it was like, hey, I jack of all trades. All of a sudden now it's into sales manager. Now it's VP of sales who just looks at numbers all day. And the thing that I enjoyed most was those first like year of being an entrepreneur and being part of a startup and just loving that like unknown future of a business, but being able to see that the business had legs to be successful. And so that's where the foundation for Good Bev came.
Looking back, when we get older and everything just becomes, whatever it is, you kind of look back and think, that time of the struggle was kind of like the best time of our lives. We lived in the shitbox apartment and we, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
totally.
where you just
And when you're in it, it maybe doesn't feel like that.
feel stressful, but in reality, when you come to the grand scheme of things, it's overwhelming. Life becomes too much at that point. And you're like, man, you know what? You know what was cool?
Yeah,
The
So
rearview mirror is crystal clear.
I'm going to tell all you young people out there, in my opinion, these cats, these are the kind of cats you want to aspire to be. You have freedom, you've got your artistic value out there, and you can create and do whatever you want. So guys, be the next guy that's doing this, all right? We'll catch you next time on Happening Now.